to our general session track. Next up, we have a session titled, It's Not About Using AI, It's About How It's Used, coming from Patrick Grillo, Senior Director, Solutions Marketing at Fortinet. As Senior Director Solutions Marketing, Patrick is responsible for creating and evangelizing key messages about Fortinet's cybersecurity solutions. Through his in-depth understanding of the complexities surrounding the subject, Patrick is able to cut through the half-truths and myths to provide clear and concise information to Fortinet's customers and partners. Prior to joining Fortinet, he has worked for a number of small to medium-sized organizations, as well as larger companies such as Wellfleet Communications, Bay Networks, Nortel Networks, Hughes Network Systems, and Comtech Mobile Data Communications in the United States, the United Kingdom, and France, holding a range of senior-level international sales and marketing roles. Patrick is based at Fortinet's EMEA office in Sophia Antipolis, France. Please join me in welcoming Patrick to the virtual stage.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, and perhaps a good evening in there as well. My name is Patrick Grillo, and if you give me just a second, we'll get everything moving here, and we'll get started. So the sooner we start, the sooner we're finished. So there we are. I think everything is working properly. You never know on these virtual events, but you can tell from the title of the presentation, it's a little bit skeptical about AI because everything in the world seems to be attributed to it today. And I certainly blame Hollywood for this phenomena, beginning with Odyssey, Space Odyssey 2001, and then Terminator and everything else in between. It's given this impression that AI is magic, that it just happens, the things that it can do, it really is replacing human intelligence. And because of that, there are certain things that are attributed to it that just don't fit. So what I want to do is to take a more pragmatic view of what's going on and really see how AI can actually add value when we're talking about cybersecurity. And there are three key issues that I want to touch on. First of all, the threat landscape itself. This is one area where AI should be able to add a lot of value. The second is to improve detection rates. Once malware gets into a network, how long does it take to detect? How long does it take before it is detected? And finally, with the skills shortage, that's a worldwide phenomenon right now. For anybody just coming out of university, coming out of college, getting into cybersecurity can never be a bad career choice for you. So if I go through and look at these three things and ask myself the question, how can AI help to address these three things? Well, I want to first take a look at the threat landscape, because this is something that increases on a regular basis in terms of both volume as well as sophistication. And that should be of any cybersecurity solution. That should be the foundation or the base, that AI is helping the organization to cut through all the noise that takes place in cybersecurity, because a lot of the attacks are repetitive and things we already know about. You want to get those out of the way quickly and focus on the real thing that's going on. It is also the other part of that is threat intelligence. This idea that the technologies, the systems that are deployed in a network are kept up to date on a continuous and automatic basis. Now, beyond that as a foundation, what I want to do is to understand how I can I can leverage AI in certain areas to address that issue about threat detection. And certainly one of the key technologies that is used for threat detection is sandboxing. And sandboxing was a big thing about 7-8 years ago. It's now something that we not take for granted, but we assume is already in the network and is working to reduce the amount of time it takes to detect when a piece of malware gets in there. AI helps that process. So now, rather than it taking 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the number is, it can be reduced. And the faster we detect, the faster we can respond. The other place where AI can help in threat detection is with certain interfaces, particularly with web applications, because there's a traditional technology out there, web application firewall, that unfortunately, the downside of it, it can generate a lot of false positives just because of the way it's designed. It requires a lot of manual tuning. AI helps with that to reduce the management burden of tuning this and letting it through its learning. Remember, we're talking about machine learning being the key technology behind all of this. Then letting that figure out what's going on and reduce or eliminate even the number of false positives. The third area where AI can help with threat detection is with the insider threat. Now, insider threat is thought to be a fairly significant part of the threat landscape when we look at how data breaches happen. So you have somebody who's inside the organization who has a trusted status. They may be moving to another role and they want to take information with them. And now this could be something as, it might be wrong to call it innocuous, but something as simple as a customer database, who the customers they have been servicing. It may be something more important, such as proprietary information to that organization. And AI can help with this by establishing a baseline for normal behavior. So once over time, this baseline is built up, any abnormal behavior, perhaps somebody coming in on a weekend or after hours when they aren't prone to doing that on a normal basis, or they're downloading information when they shouldn't be, or downloading information at all. The AI can be applied here so we see what is going on in the network. And understanding that will start giving us warning signs that, hey, there's an insider threat that we need to go ahead and deal with. Now, another part of it, away from threat detection, is how AI can help with the skills gap. This has been a perennial problem and is only getting worse. And look at any number of statistics. I mean, I have these statistics here, but you can take a look at it. And as I said, people, even if you're going into an organization at a junior level with the idea that you will be trained with on-the-job training, a lot of times what happens once a person reaches a certain level, well, they'll take advantage of the training that they've received and move on to a better paying job or a more responsible position, whatever the case may be. So this is this is a never-ending circle as to how organizations are trying to deal with this. And because there is such a significant lack or gap, I should say, in the marketplace of qualified people, organizations are taking the alternative path, bringing in junior people and training them with the hope that they will stay. Now, can AI suddenly get rid of the need for a trained security operations operator? Absolutely not. But what it can do is to go ahead and help the human element with working through just the massive amount of data, information, alerts, events, whatever the case may be, everything that's going on, by becoming or allowing it to be implemented as a standalone virtual security analyst. Here is a system that's in the network that helps the real humans in the network to go ahead and figure out what's going on. There's so much noise that goes on, and that's one of the constant, I should say, the constant feedback that we get, that cutting through the noise is overwhelming the analysts that they do have. Having an AI-based virtual assistant can help with that significantly. Not necessarily reduce the noise, but alleviate human resources, which is where the real value add is, alleviate them from the tedious jobs. And this is something AI is extremely well suited for, to go ahead and help respond better. Again, to find that proverbial needle in a haystack so that you can then, hey, there's something in here, reduce that time to detect and increase your ability to go ahead and respond. So behind all of this is really the underlying fundamental question. how will AI make this work better? Now, I have two examples here. The one on the right is a very simple one, this concept of prevent, detect, and respond. These are kind of the three watchwords of cybersecurity, in that we want to have three layers of security. A prevention layer to get rid of as much as we can is like a pre-filter, because most of, I would say most, a high percentage of the threats that come into a network is malware or is based on malware we already know about. So why shouldn't I want to filter that out as much as I can? But then something will, or when something does, and it eventually will get into the network because it's a brand new piece of malware or whatever the case may be, we want all of the detection technologies. Like I said, in case of the sandbox, there are other detection technologies as well that come into play. And we want those to be able to detect as quickly as possible. And then finally, based on that detection, have the network take or have a response, whether that be automated or human assisted. Now, the framework on the left-hand side is a little bit more formal. This is from NIST in the United States, but it's essentially saying the same thing. It's identifying and protecting, detecting and responding. So regardless of which method or which formula you're looking at, which framework you're looking at, we're still trying to receive, or I should say, we're still trying to achieve the same objective. Now, how you do that, you could look for technologies from different vendors, implement and manage them yourselves, but that's really just adding to the problem itself. What you want to do is look at it from a cybersecurity framework. How do these technologies work together? It's not just about throwing boxes into the mix. In fact, that approach, which we can call the point product or a best of breed approach, is a contributing factor to where we are today, that the networks are fractured. The security solutions operate in silos for the most part. What you are looking for, or what your objective should be, is eliminating those silos by taking as many technologies as possible, technologies that are designed to work together from a single vendor. Now, that's not to say to get rid of everybody and just put one vendor's products into a network. What it's saying is to rationalize how many vendors you actually are dealing with, reduce it to a more manageable network, or excuse me, number. And at the same time, those vendors' products actually can interoperate with other vendors' products to some degree. It's not as if they were natively integrated. How we do this at Fortinet is with the Fortinet Security Fabric. This is what we call our cybersecurity mesh platform, based on a concept that was recently introduced to the market by Gartner, the cybersecurity mesh architecture. This idea of consolidation, the rationalization of how many vendors are in a network, and those things I was talking about earlier, certainly about the threat intelligence, the threat research, the web application firewall for threat detection for web applications, the sandboxing, all of those technologies and other are built into this framework and designed to work together. So not only are you leveraging AI for better performance, for better threat detection capability, but you're also reducing the complexity of the network, which automatically can increase your level of protection and reduce the operational burden on the staff that you already have. And with a standalone virtual analyst, helps to reduce that burden even further. Now, I tend to take very much a cynical approach or a pragmatic approach to this. And in spite of all of the technologies in the world, we still have something we can't contain: the human error. Now, this cartoon, which is probably 10 years old by this time, but I think it's still relevant. You can build a network as secure as you want it to be. The issue, if you make it too secure, then the network actually becomes useless. But we always have to take into account the human element, because we know statistically that if you get an email or an email makes it into the network and you've won $1 million or an all expenses paid trip, some percentage of people will click on that email, will open it. And we also know statistically that some percentage of people will click on the attachment or go to the URL, the website that's in the document. So we always have to be taking this into account. We can't, with technology, prevent this from happening. And we can do that with awareness and with training and so on. But we always have to keep it. And hopefully AI can help us more so, or contribute to our ability to make sure that Dave, and I apologize to all the Daves in the audiences, is not the one that's going to bring the network down. But again, there is one more aspect to it, and it certainly appeals to me because of the cynicism about technology in general, is that I saw this cartoon recently and I thought it was outstanding, because I think it kind of encapsulates what a lot of people think about AI. It's not until you see how it's implemented and how it's being used do you get a feeling that it actually is going to add value. So with that, I'll sign off. I hope this has been informative, a little bit entertaining, and I'm reporting live from London today in our UK headquarters. I want to thank you very much and look forward to speaking at another event in the near future.
Wow, what a great session. Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please make your way to your next session. Also, don't forget to check out the networking, accept your connection request, and explore the AI exhibits. Have a great time.